All right. Welcome everyone to our Rock Your Purpose book club, a new book over here, the 12-week year. I am super pumped, you guys. This book has me fired up and it makes so much sense that the whole premise is breaking down that annual thinking and breaking our goal setting and planning into shorter time frames, specifically the 12 weeks. It's pretty awesome that here it is July 1st. So it's also the start of the third quarter success sprint, which is 12 weeks, right? And so that we are working in this 12-week time frame. And it's pretty amazing that Plexus decided to change the contest periods and change how they did contests, because what they were finding is people were like going crazy and working really hard during the like 2 contest periods in the year, and then working for these like short-term rewards. And so they broke up our year into these quarters. And the way that we are earning points with the success sprints is all about helping our business be a stable, growing business. So it's pretty cool how that has kind of changed. And then this is also a super awesome book to piggyback off of the 12-week year and then our short leadership book that we did the last 3 weeks. So super awesome. And I just had so many nuggets that I wrote down. I loved that, and I think that we all can think of situations and people and experiences where we can see that someone or even a business or maybe even a ministry or something has so much potential, but yet they don't tap into that potential. And we're like, what is going on? They're so great and they're so this and that, but why aren't we seeing more productivity in these situations, And I just loved that he was talking about that. And I think if we really think, where could I be in 3 months? Where could I be with my workout goals? Where could I be with my house management goals? Where could I be in my workplace? Where could I be with my Plexus business? Where could I be in ministry? Where could I be in volunteering with the kids or something? And we really, really think like, what is our big dream? Where are we dreaming to be? And then how are we going to execute that? So I love that he said, he brought in the Thomas Edison quote. If we did the things that we're capable of doing, we would literally astound ourselves. And it's so true. Like I have started college classes like the month after I graduated from high school. I went and did the prereqs for PT school in 2 years, which was unheard of. Usually it's just more difficult to do, but it's not unachievable, right? I did it. Other people have done it. And then PT school in 3.5 years and it was just one thing after another. And when Plexus became a thing and I realized that I could share, I was like, well, I can't do that right now because I'm teaching. And I was teaching. My husband was in school. I was working full time. I had 4 little kids and like 6 and under. And I was like, just let me get through teaching, because I was revamping curriculum and I was working on curriculum, working on my PowerPoints and all this stuff. And then come around the next year, I was teaching and still revamping my PowerPoints and making sure my lectures were where I wanted them and sharing Plexus. And so it's just proof that we can do more than what we think we can. And the other thing is that achievement is not a lack of knowledge. It truly is not a lack of knowledge, intellect, information, strategy, ideas, hard work, talent, luck, knowledge. All of these are great and we need to have these things, but it's not what is going to tip us over this edge. It's not going to tip the scales. It's implementation. It's implementing the ideas. It's implementing and using that knowledge. Knowledge is only powerful if we're using it. And I say this all the time. People know that eating fast food every day is not good. We know this. Those oils that food is fried in are not good. We know this. There's article after article after article. We know that smoking is not good. That is why there's a warning on the cigarette package. We know this, but it doesn't mean that we're necessarily implementing that, because we aren't taking that to heart. And part of this he talked about in the Slight Edge too is that, well, if I just have these fries today, it's no big deal. Well, it may not be, but if you have fries every single day, the compound effect of that is not good on your health. So execution is the single greatest differentiator. We all have the same tools in front of us. We all have an amazing business opportunity. We all have the same back office tools. We all have the same website options. We all have the same training in our team pages. We all have the same training that corporate pops out for us. We all have access to that. And so it's how we're implementing that. And if we think of times in our lives where we have fallen short, like I'll have a goal, I want to do this, this, and this, whatever. And when I think back of why that didn't really go through how I wanted, it is a problem in that implementation. So something went wrong. Either I didn't leave enough time for myself. I didn't plan on something needing extra attention over here, right? We can think of these examples over and over that it wasn't the idea or that we didn't have the skill. It was something that we didn't implement properly in order for that end goal to have been met. This is so true too when we see this in the weight loss market, so much information, book after book after book, and program after program after program on how to lose weight. And yet people still struggle with weight loss. And we know, like we all know, right, that there's a lot more to weight loss than just a program. Our gut health is so important. What we're exposed to in our environment is so important. The food that we're eating and the quality of our food at that. So there's lots of things to take into factor with that. But the biggest point of the matter is that everyone knows I should eat more vegetable, and everyone knows. Most people know. Majority of people know we should eat more vegetables. We should move our bodies more. We should eat less fries. Okay. John Wooden says, it's what you learn after you know it all that counts. Oh my goodness, right? I see this in my kids that they do think that they know it all. But when it's time for them to implement something, say the laundry or dinner, or well, I know how to clean the bathroom, even though I'm trying to go over the steps, like, hey, let's review this before I know. And then where is there a fall off? Well, sometimes there is, because it has to do with how we're applying those rules, how we're applying those skills, how we're applying that knowledge that's going to play out. I remember getting done with PT school and we just studied and studied and studied and studied. And here I'm like, I don't know anything, but I knew it all. Passed the test. I passed the licensure exam. I knew what I was doing. I graduated. I had a couple pieces of paper, but it was what I learned after graduation that was super valuable into my career, right? Becoming a new parent. We can read all the parenting books that we want, but until we have that child in our arms and we're working through the sleeping and the feeding and all of the things, it's then that we're really learning. I love in chapter 2, I think I alluded to this, but breaking down our year into 12 weeks. So having that, not having annual goals. And I honestly don't even set annual goals until about like February, March. I don't know why. I think part of it is Christmas is so busy for us, here in the past, not now that we're homeschooling, but in the past, the kids had this Christmas break and we're shopping and cooking extra and getting gifts ready for teachers and getting gifts ready for family and doing all these things that I wasn't like, yeah, let me set some goals for January 1st. And of course, I'm always thinking and processing, but I kind of wait. And it's the same thing too with Plexus, is that we look at the goal for where we want to see ourselves in the year, and then we break it down into how much quote unquote work or how much we have to achieve each month in order to get this goal at the end of the year. And we're talking about this on our goal setting calls that we're doing every month here. So don't get overwhelmed. We're definitely here to help you. Your sponsor's here to help you with that too. But when we look at even a weight loss goal, well, I want to lose 50 pounds this year. Okay, but what does that mean? Because if we wait until, okay, I have a whole year to lose 50 pounds, we're slowly falling behind and behind and behind. Well, I'll start working out tomorrow. I'll start working out tomorrow. I'll start eating better tomorrow. And so come month after month, we're just, and then come, October, okay, I got 2 months to lose 50 pounds, right? So that makes it a little bit harder. Emmy's calling the dog. And even with like house projects, right? Like, okay, I need to clean out the kids' closets. I need to clean out the main closet, my closet, whatever. If we think of, I have a whole year to do all of that, it's easy to push things off. And then in October, like, oh, well, now I have all these closets to clean because that was one of my goals. Where if we look at things in a 3-month increment, we can say, okay, hey, Emmeline, I'm glad you're having fun, but you need to go upstairs because it's too loud down here. Emmeline. So when we think about, okay, over time, I want to go through all the closets in the house, but we say, okay, in this 3 months, I'm going to do these 2 closets. In the next 3 months, I'm going to do these, right? So we can break these things down in our daily life too. And I've really had to do that working towards retiring myself from PT while working and raising children and having a marriage, right? So trying to get through those things, I can't just go, okay, I'm going to clean out every closet this year. That doesn't work for me anyway. And so this is a great way to make that concept happen. Or even like remodeling projects, whatever you're into, like whatever it is that you're into. Okay. And then, because that also is going to prevent us from thinking, well, I have more time. I'll just work on it next. I'll start my IPA tomorrow. I'll start this then. I'll talk to that person tomorrow. And you're just constantly putting things off. So what we want to also remember is that every week is going to count. Every moment is going to count, every month, every day. And so it's that compounding effect that we have. So choosing to eat an apple for a snack today, compounded tomorrow. Okay, let's do it again. And let's do it again. And then maybe on the 4th day, maybe then we do have the bag of chips, but we're not eating chips every day. So that compound of eating the apple 3 out of 4 days is definitely going to compound and make an impact on our health. So definitely doing that. And then deadlines. Like, how many of you set a deadline for yourself? Like, I'm going to clean the kitchen in 20 minutes. And sure enough, you get pretty dang close to getting the kitchen cleaned in 20 minutes, right? But if we're like, oh, well, whatever, I'll just kind of get it done when I'll just take my time here cleaning the kitchen. No, like set some deadlines for ourselves. I love that he talks that excellent is a habit, and that in the long run, our actions are always congruent with our underlying thinking. So we can relate so much back down to our underlying thinking and not get paused in our action. And then the other thing to remember is that action is the cure for anything that's bogging down our brain. So, okay, I have a lot of work to do. I have a lot of whatever. Well, guess what? I'm going to start with something that I can accomplish. I'm going to do those dishes really quickly because I'm going to then build a sense of accomplishment and then move on to the next thing. And then just breaking through that in our brain that a year is now 12 weeks, right? I love that. And making sure that after those 12 weeks, when we're setting those goals, make sure we're writing them down, write them down. So important to write them down, but then we're also going to reflect. I've heard lots of, successful people say that they do a reflection weekend, like once a month even, where they're reflecting and they're not doing a bunch of stuff, but truly getting away to reflect, truly getting away to dream, getting away to plan and goal set. And those are for short term. These are not like, let's do this once a year. This is quarterly that a lot of people do that. And then we want to remember the emotional connection that we have, and that when we are going to tend to choose comfort. And what is comfort? The enemy of progress, right? We were listening to The Greatest Showman today, so it's perfect timing. However, it's usually those actions that make us uncomfortable that are the most important. So when you think, okay, I have to get my daughter to clean the kitchen, but you know it's going to be uncomfortable. You know that there's going to be a conflict. You know that you're going to have to work through that parenting issue. But if I don't work on that now to help her learn to do something or whatever, then what's going to happen the next time and the next time? Then it's going to be even harder and harder and harder to quote unquote rein her in or rein that child in to do what's been asked of them. And so it's easy to go, oh, I just don't want to like deal with the fight, right? I don't want to do whatever. But you're never going to get through those things if we don't work on that. That's just one like real life, really one real life example there. And then we do this in our Plexus businesses when we get afraid to talk to someone, or oh, I'll talk to that person tomorrow, or they might say no, or whatever. Okay, yeah, there's a lot of mights, but what is the best that could happen? What is the best that could happen? And that's what we need to remember. And our biggest sacrifice in making changes in our lives, and it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's a health goal or a Plexus goal or a career goal or a family goal. You're going to sacrifice comfort to make those changes. If we look at what he said, he quoted Robert Greenleaf, behind every impossible achievement is the dreamer of impossible dreams. Amen, right? I have been told several times, I talked about this on a team call a couple months ago, that I was told that I would not be a very good runner. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll show you, and it wasn't comfortable. Like I pushed myself to my limits. You think about the 4-minute mile. Well, no one thought that anyone could run a sub 4-minute mile until somebody did it, or run, what was it? A 4-minute mile. And then somebody's like, well, I'm going to beat that. I mean, people, when they saw that it was possible, someone dreamed that and someone worked towards it. And then other people followed suit. And then even for dual status or PT school, I've had people go, well, you don't know that you really want to be a PT. I'm like, yes, I do. I mean, I was young, you guys. I knew I wanted to be a PT since I was like 17 years old. And when I saw dual status and I saw Plexus as this amazing opportunity, I was like, I'm going to do this. And it took even my family members to get on board with that, let alone coworkers and strangers. They're like, wait, what? You're leaving us? Don't leave us. Like, sorry guys, I'm out. Anyway, and then remembering our brain is designed to keep us safe. So when we are putting ourselves out there to do something that's uncomfortable, our brain's like, no, don't do that. That's fear. That's dangerous. That could be dangerous. That could be harmful. And so our brain is trying to stop us. But as we continue to work on our thought process around that, our brain, we can override that part. We can override that part of our brain. This is called neuroplasticity. It's pretty awesome. He does the quick science lesson in the book. If you really want to get into it, you can read Switch on Your Brain by Carolyn Leaf. She goes into all of the science. And this is something that myself and fellow therapists on this call of, we've learned a lot of is neuroplasticity, is that our brains can change. And so when we have our positive affirmations and we have our positive thoughts going around things, and we say, I am a what? I am a what? I am a diamond. I am a double diamond. I am a quadruple diamond. We are a quadruple diamond family. Then I'm also looking for ways to make that happen. So not only am I telling my brain it's not scary, but I'm also making efforts and mindset changes to make that happen. I'm not skipping my IPA. I'm not skipping talking to that person on my chicken list or whatever. So affirmations are super duper important. And then we're training our brain around that. So that is what I had to share. You guys, I probably could say a lot more, but I want to give you a chance to talk and open it up to everyone. So thank you so much for jumping on, and I'd love to hear from you. We'd all love to hear from you.
All right. Well, I got something to say. I was just sitting here waiting to see if anybody else wanted to say something. So maybe I'll just break the ice while everybody else is thinking about their little points that they want to say. Don't be afraid to share. This goes right along with what Elizabeth just said and what he just said in this book. We can do scary things. We can get out of our comfort zone. We can talk on book club. It doesn't matter if your book didn't come in yet and you haven't read the chapters. It doesn't matter if you only got through one chapter and you didn't get through the other two. It doesn't matter. Like, you can do scary things and put your video on and say something, and that will help you to grow. So there's a little plug-in for that. But I really loved this book. I'm not going to talk about all of the points that I loved because Elizabeth did touch on all of them anyways. But there was a couple things that I wanted to say. And so it was in the first chapter, and it was just about it's not a knowledge problem, it's an execution problem. And he talked about how everybody can have great ideas, but unless you implement and execute on those ideas, then they're just nothing but a great idea. So it's not about knowing, it's about doing. We have to do. We know that we need to do our IPA. We know that we need to get up and work out. But if we don't get up and work out, or if we don't do our IPA, then we're not going to reach the goals of whatever goes along with that, right? So we have to do the things. And then going over to chapter 3, the emotional connection. Oh my gosh, I literally underlined so much of this, which is all things I've heard before. It's all things I've read before, but I don't care because it is so fascinating to me, and it is also true, and it is also good. You have these, when you tell yourself these things, I talk about mindset all the time. I feel like majority of my team calls, I talk about mindset, which is why my last team call, I got out of my comfort zone and talked about creating leaders instead of mindset. But anyways, we've got 8 kids over here, and they will say things all the time, all of them at different times for different reasons. I can't do that. And I'm like, yes, you can do that. Yes, you can. You can. You can do hard things. You can do scary things. And it doesn't matter if it's them wanting to get on the skateboard and try to go down the hill, which that freaks me out. So they have to have their helmet on and all their knee pads and elbow pads and everything, so we don't wind up in the ER. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter if it's that, it doesn't matter if it's them playing a Mario video game and they can't get past the castle level or whatever. Those of you that have kids, you know what I'm talking about, right? The Mario game. And so I'm like, listen, he's like, my son, 6 years old, he's like, I can't do this. I'm like, yes, you can. You can do hard things. So he kept trying. I said, you just keep trying. He kept trying, and he did it. And he was so excited. He was like yelling and screaming and jumping up and down. I did it. So we don't give up. We just keep doing the things, right? But some of the things that stood out to me with all of this too is your why. That emotional connection is your why. And he talked about having the vision for the future has to be bigger than the vision of the present. And he talked about the life vision. So I really loved that part of it, because we talk so much about our why, and you want to have a why that makes you cry, and you can't just say, well, I want to be debt free. Like, you have to put some numbers behind that. You have to really dig deep. What does that mean to be debt free? How many credit cards do you have to pay off? What do you want to do? What does that mean? And really breaking it down, writing down your numbers. I need to pay off XYZ of XYZ credit card. I need to pay off XYZ vehicle. I need to pay off, and writing all of those things down, right? And so we can go through and we can do all of that with our why, but really envisioning yourself, like, where do you want to be in 5 years? I just was going through this with our oldest son. Where do you see yourself at in 5 years? What do you want to see happen in 5 years? Do you want to own a house? Do you want to be married? Do you want to own a truck? Like, what do you want? And so that is one of the first things that we can start out with, right? And then, but just taking it further, and he broke it down so good. And he just talked about all the things. What do you want for your family? What legacy do you want to create? What do you want spiritually? What level of security do you seek? What level of income do you need from your career? What interest do you wish you could pursue? All of that's on page 20. And he said, if you are going to perform at a high level, take new ground and be great, then you have to have a vision that is compelling. So we talk about vision all the time. This is why we do our vision casting calls. Or we can also call them opportunity calls, right? It's because we are casting that vision out for other people to hear and see about. How Plexus is different. How did we do these things? All of us start out at silver, you guys. We're going to be doing some of this fun stuff in July now with our red, white, and silver that we're going to be doing, which we haven't even announced it yet, but now you get a little sneak peek. See, it's going to be on book club. But we're going to be talking about our silver stories. All of us start out at silver. All of us. The sapphires start out at silver. The diamonds, they start out at silver. The double diamonds, they start out at silver. We have to start somewhere, and we have to grow ourselves, and we have to get ourselves out of those comfort zones. So anyways, just another thing too, he talked about going to the next level. So I just bought the shirt from convention that said never settle. And I was talking about this with one of my kids today. This is why book clubs are so important for your life, not just for your business, because they really help you with your kids and stuff too. But my one daughter, they get report card money when they get done with their school. And so she was talking about how she wanted to get this particular toy. And well, they don't have it available on Amazon Prime. And so I guess I'm just going to get this one. And I said, no, you're not. You're going to wait and get the one that you want. We're not settling for the next best thing. You're going to wait and get the one that you have been waiting for and that you've been talking about and bugging me about every stinking minute of the day for the last 3 days. Like, you're getting the one that you want and you're just going to wait for it. And it's okay to be patient for that, but not settling and just then taking it to the next level. Like, we can't expect to move up and grow if we just always stay in the same spot, right? Like, we have to go to the next level and level up, right? So I like that he talked about that on page 21. Anyways, I'm sure I have other things to say, but I probably talked long enough now, and somebody else is, I'm sure, ready to share something now.
Okay, quiet I'm not, but I do have 4 miniature dachshunds in the background, so rarely do I ever take my mic and open it. But on page 21, the same one you're talking about, Rochelle, we ask people at the very beginning of their journey, what is it you want? Where do you want to be? Do you want to be gold? Do you want to be ruby? What do you want to do? And that's really common for us. It's a really good starting spot. I write on my mirror the things that I want. So like with a marker, it's like, I'm Jewel. I have all of these people joining my team. I have a happy family, all of the things that, come and they're an emotional thing for me. And I think that's super important because we do get stuck with, gosh, I really want to talk to this person. I think they'd be really good, but I don't really want to pick up the phone and talk to them for whatever reason, right? But everything that we do in life has an emotional tie to it. It can be a good one or not, right? But the thing where we're asking ourselves, what is it we want to do? There was a really good spot at the bottom of page 21. It's not just where do you want to be? What do you want to be as far as your spiritual relationships look like? What does that look like? It's very specific. What does your family look like? What does your lifestyle look like? We already know what our income, we'd like that to be, right? That's usually the first thing we talk about. But what does that look like when you finally get what you want? What does that look like for your family? How about your health? What about your community? Some of us spend a lot of time picking our community up. We have, some of us spend more time with our families, but what is it that we truly, truly want? Because that's what's going to drive us to go as far as we can, right? So those things that are stopping us where, gosh, I don't want to call that person, or I don't want to fill in the blank. You can do that because you're going to have all of those things. We talk about that vision board all the time. It needs to be more than just, gee, this is what I want, and I've got a pretty little car on my vision board. We need to probably think about, what if I could have absolutely everything I want, what would that look like very specifically, right? And I think maybe we should start asking ourselves that a little sooner on. I've been saying I want to be gold for a really long time. that's really not what I want. And Rochelle has a really long list now of all the things I want, because I think I was really specific the other day. Okay, now stop talking. My dogs are probably not going to be cooperative forever. So.
Oh, I'm so glad you shared, Karen. And I love to hear the lists. I love to hear the whys. They are just so, so inspiring always. And it's just so important. And we don't care if there's dogs in the background. We just love it that people are sharing. So I'm so glad that you did. Hmm. And I was going to piggyback really quick, and then I'm going to be quiet, I promise. But you were talking about family time, Karen, and you were saying how, and so when you talk about, like, he talks about this too, with like the short-term sacrifices, long-term gain, like we all want to spend time with our family. Like that's probably why most of us are doing the things that we're doing, right? First, in some way, shape, or form. Some people might want their husbands to be retired, or some people might want to help this child with this or that, whatever, but it's something is tied with our families, right? And so, you know, sometimes there's that pull, and he talks about it in here with our brain. It's the amygdala, and it's that what Elizabeth mentioned too. It's our brain keeping us out. Oh no, that's not comfortable. It's way more comfortable to sit on the couch and watch TV with the kids or watch a movie with my husband. But we have to have when we have our goals written down, we have to make sure that we're doing those, because it's just like the same thing that Elizabeth mentioned too. And the slide edge talked about this. If we just keep every day, well, I'm not going to do my IPA right now, I'm going to sit and watch my movie with my husband every night, and then we're not doing our things, then nothing's going to change. If nothing changes, then nothing changes. So yes, we want to spend time with our family. Family time is so important. I've got 8 kids that I try to spend individual time with. I want to spend individual time with my husband. I want to spend family time. I have extended family that lives here now. And so, yes, it is super important, but there are going to be times where the family is going to have to understand, like, listen, mommy has to work right now. And I told the kids that today. I'm like, listen, it was the end of the month, and now it's the beginning of the month. And I have responsibilities and I have things that I have to do. And it's not that I don't want to spend time with you. I absolutely do, but you have to let me work, because I'm with you guys all the time. And now it's time for mama to work. And it's important for them to see that too. They need to see a good work ethic. They need to see that things can happen and that mommies can do hard things too. Like try to think about posts that you're writing with 7 people talking to you at the same time. So anyways, there you go.
I actually am on page 6. So it's right at the very beginning. But it says, not by working harder, but by focusing on the activities that matter most, maintaining a sense of urgency to get those things done, and shutting the low value activity that keeps you stuck. So that was really good. We all know that we're supposed to set goals, we're supposed to reach for those goals, but depending on how busy we are and what we have to do, something has to give. And so evaluating the things that you're doing, are they helping you attain your goals? Are they helping you reach your goals? And if they're not, then that's something that you probably need to get rid of. So that was something that really impacted me, to take a look at my daily activities and what am I doing? If I'm doing this, is it helping me attain and reach the goals that I've set?
Yeah, Charlotte, I was going to say that reminds me in the last book about the violinist when she spoke about making her bed and doing all those daily routine tasks, and how she wasn't achieving a higher level of skill. But then when she shed those things away and focused on the violin practice more, she became this world renowned professional. And yes, so I definitely speak to that. It's something that I've tried to work with, is prioritizing more and shedding those things that, in the military, we learned a lot about these small routine things because they want you to have this repetition kind of mindset. But for success in business and leadership, really we see going above that and being able to prioritize and shed those little routine mundane things that aren't really important. And I love how in the beginning of this book, you've got Thoreau and Emerson, both transcendentalists who are considered the kind of people who want you to free think above the normal societal constructs that so many people live in. It's like when I love to watch movie and TV and all those things, but I can't stand the word binge because it seems like that's such a big thing, especially with COVID, how everybody's like, binge this, binge this, binge this show, binge this show. And like I said, I fight my flesh in that because I want to do that, but I realize once you've like binge watched a season of anything, you feel so sluggish. Like, what have I accomplished? Nothing. So I'm so glad that this teaches about blocking time and making every block important and giving it its own weight.
I literally loved every word that you said. Just absolutely spot on.
I'm not sure I want to follow you, Daniel, because I don't have a word like transcendentalist to use. You're amazing, by the way. You just upped my game big time. I will be studying for next week. So thank you for making me better. I am one of those people who forgot to order my book until it was too late, and I don't have it yet. But I did just read the description while I was ordering it. And even from doing that, I was able to sit down and really think about my priorities recently. And it inspired me to sit down and write a list of my top 5 priorities. And I realized I was living them upside down. So even that, because the urgent was seeming so important to me recently. And so I was able to flip that just this past week, and it has made a difference even in this 1 week of being able to so I would encourage everybody to do that at some point. Sit down and write your top 5 priorities down and pay attention to where you're spending that time, because this all seems like a combination of time blocking and the slight edge and prioritizing. That's what it all seems like to me so far. Obviously, I need to do a little more reading when my book shows up, but even just the description was useful enough in my life where I realized that I was not living the priorities that I was setting for myself. So that's something that I really found useful so far. But obviously I need to read the chapters as soon as it gets here, hopefully tomorrow. And good job, Daniel.
Just know that we got our book in a couple days ago, and we were skimming through it like right before and reading it out loud. So we tried to cover it, but we didn't even get fully all the chapters. And I'm so excited to read about the parts of the brain. Like, that sounds so interesting. And I wanted to add what I thought was the thing I'm going to look forward to in reading this book is figuring out a way to not just be busy and just think that I'm being productive because I'm busy. Because for me, mom brain and even dad brain, I'm sure, is like when you're going around the house, because a lot of my priorities are in taking care of this house. And, you look at the fan, it's dusty. And then you look at the floor and you pick up the toys, and then you find laundry on the floor. So you go and put the laundry in the washing machine, and then you're in the washroom and you're like, you got to clean the washroom. Oh, I got dishes in the washroom sink. I got to finish those so I can use the sink anyway. You guys know how that goes. And it just becomes this never ending cycle of just being busy, but really not accomplishing anything. So I'm really, like, as Daniel, I was so excited about this book personally, because I'm like my dad in a lot of ways. I get his brain, and he says he's all about efficiency, but all he does is just stay busy. The execution part, I think, even I hope maybe I can give him this book next, but because I really want to learn more about execution.
I really just loved the knowledge is power, when that you can know everything under the sun, but actually executing everything, that is what the implementation of everything is what really is important. It doesn't matter at this point if you know physics, if you're not implementing it in the things that you need to accomplish, it's useless. So that was my biggest takeaway.
I loved that, Amy. That is so true. Knowledge is not power unless we're doing something with the knowledge. People always, how often have we heard that? Oh, knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. Okay, well, yeah, to an extent, we do have to have knowledge in order to teach our kids things and whatnot. But even so, when we're teaching the kids, like teaching is a verb, we're doing something with it, right? So, yeah, I love that part.
Yeah, just to piggyback off that, that's something that Jim Quick says. He says, knowledge is not power. Knowledge is just potential power. You really don't have power unless you teach it to somebody. And then the other thing that I wanted to say that I think is kind of interesting, it just reminded me of when Elizabeth was talking about Roger Bannister and how he ran the 4-minute mile and then all these other people like ran it and accomplished it. And that's not just that they were like, oh, somebody did it in 4 minutes. Like, I can do it too. There's actually something that happens. I don't know if you've heard about like morphogenetic fields or M fields or anything like that, but it's really fascinating when you look at it. Like, for instance, you look at people like Emily, who just accomplished and like got to Emerald, and how, that could maybe inspire me to get to Emerald because I've seen her do that. And there's something that happens when somebody accomplishes something big where it's actually almost like uploaded to God's iCloud storage system, if you kind of think of it like that. It's like I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I don't know if anybody's heard of the 100th monkey effect, or how, there was all these monkeys on this island and somebody gave them like potatoes and they were all just kind of eating these potatoes off of the beach in the sand. And then one of these days, a researcher showed this monkey to like wash his potato, and then the monkey showed somebody else, and the monkey showed somebody else. And these monkeys started like washing their food. But then the weird thing that happened was, and this is kind of where I'm tying this into the Roger Bannister story, is these monkeys on different islands started doing the same thing. So when somebody like breaks through the mold and they accomplish like a really big goal, there's actually something that happens in this level of consciousness, the consciousness that God kind of gave us as a species, and it allows other conscious beings to realize what they can achieve and to achieve those things too. So what's really interesting is if you yourself have like this kind of expanded level of consciousness, you could actually affect, if it's like at a high enough level. Like, I'm not there. This is like for people who are like, Gandhi, or people who are like, like really like amazing with this sort of thing, but you can affect like 750,000 people. So if you look at even the world and maybe some things that you don't like in the world, the more, the more you like educate people about things, the more that you break the mold, the more that this can make such a change and such an impact across your whole team. So relating it to Plexus, there's tons of ways that can relate, right? Like if you as a leader kind of break the mold, think of how not only that's going to inspire your team, but like all these other teams around you. And I don't know, there's kind of like some magic to it that actually comes from God and kind of expanding consciousness. I don't know if I explained that well, but it's super fascinating, and it's something that I've been researching quite a bit, and I actually need to go back and do it some more. But
Wow, that's awesome, Erin.
Positive. Hey, yes. So that is super awesome. And that is why a couple of things that I've thought of, we need to be in person with convention and different things. Like when we see, like one thing Jolie said was, these are just normal people. Like we're all just normal. And if you hang out with me, you'll realize that I'm just a normal person. Everyone's like, you need to have a social media brand. I'm like, I don't have a brand. I'm me. Like, I'm just a person doing the best I can to raise responsible humans and help people. And oh yeah, I was a PT for like 20 years and I'm married. Like, I'm not this like, oh, I'm an influencer, follow me for fashion advice. No. And then the other thing too, like I shared with everyone on my stories, and then I talked about it on team call, like my charts for the kids. Well, I can't just hand those to someone because those are specific to how we do things here and how my kids know, like when I write something, what that means to our house. So it's hard to say here. And it it all stemmed from me leaving them jobs on days I was working. I was writing the same things all the time. Like, why am I keep writing this? So I printed, like typed it and laminated it, for goodness sakes, like, let's not make this harder than it needs to be. But I can have the charts and I can have our laminated sheets, but if we don't use them, they mean nothing. If I don't implement that, if I don't drive that process, the kids are not going to go, oh, where are my chores, mama? Like, no, they still need those reminders and we still have to implement it. And then the other thing that I meant to say earlier, you guys, is that people say, well, I want to know what's in Plexus. I need to know the ingredients. Literally standing there holding a Coke, for the love of Pete. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with drinking a Coke. Like, is it the best thing for us? No. Again, slight edge. Are you going to die? No. But for people that say, well, I want to know what's in Plexus, sitting there holding their Coke, they don't care. They don't need to know what's in it. That is just an objection to going, I'm afraid to make changes in my life, right? I don't want to be uncomfortable. That's what that means. I don't want to be uncomfortable. Now, if they're standing there holding kombucha and they're eating kale raw and whatever, like, okay, yeah, then they probably care what is in Plexus, right? So this is just something to keep in mind. And this really just relates back to, well, we know a lot of things, but it doesn't mean that we are doing them. And so it's, that is not the biggest barrier is a lack of knowledge, for real. And the other thing is that we have no excuse not to change something. Like, I like to do makeup. I don't do anything super fancy or anything, but I enjoy it. And I didn't always know how to do it. So I learned. I watched people do makeup. I asked my friend. I went to the math counter. Like, I figured it out so I would know what to do. And now with thousands of YouTube videos on how to put on makeup or how to do your hair or how to put nails on that have fallen off or whatever it is, we have that knowledge available to us. So there is no excuse to not be able to go figure something out. We have knowledge at our fingertips, literally. And so it's not a lack of even obtaining knowledge. It truly is a lack of implementation.
Yes, that was so good. Elizabeth did my makeup at convention one year, I just have to say, because I'm not the makeup person. I just don't I haven't made that a priority. See, it's not about a lack of knowledge. Rochelle hasn't made that a priority. So that takes it back to priorities, right? But if I wanted to make it a priority, I could get the knowledge to do it, right? But yeah, I loved all of that you just said, Elizabeth. So true. And Erin, you too. That was really fascinating about the monkeys. And the other thing I was thinking about, Erin, when you were talking too, is that, when you were talking about Emily Haas, oh my gosh, I love her. Like, she actually started the business a couple months before I did. And I've seen her this whole time struggling at Ruby. Like, she's just like, but she's never, ever, ever gave up. She was always on those team calls. She was always doing her IPA, always on going to every event, every training, doing the things. And it was just so incredible to see her journey yesterday. I kept checking her wall. I'm like, oh my gosh, 33 orders away. Oh my gosh, 25 orders away, 10 orders away. I was getting nervous for her because it was like getting late in the night. And I'm like, I remember that. I remember when I hit Emerald in July and it was like at 9:30 at night that it came. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But it's really, really important for us to be hitting those goals and having those ranks too, right? Because it is inspiring for other people. And one thing that I looked at when I was first starting out, and even I've been reminded of it throughout my journey at different times, throughout my Plexus business journey, is looking at other people. Obviously, we know that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us, right? But looking at like real people that are actually doing this business, I would look at Bridget Ryan, who had 7 kids. I looked at Amy Paul, who had 7 kids, because when I started the business, I had 6 kids. So I was looking at people that had more kids than me and that were still really successful in doing this, right? And Brenda Martin, who has 11 kids, diamond, they're all diamonds. And so I'm thinking, okay, if they can do it, I can do it. And so it's important for us to be able to go diamond And Christina said this on one of her calls, is you want to get up over like the whatever it is on those courses, what is that big old wall called, whatever. Anyways, you want to get up over the wall first, right? So you hit diamond first or whatever rank first. And then you are not just like, okay, hey, I'm over this big hump, bye. No, you're over here and you're helping to pull your people up with you so that they're coming up over the hump with you, over the wall with you, right? So I thought about that when you were talking about all of that too, Erin. And it's just so crazy how even Emily, who has nothing to do with me or my business, but she's a sideline. And it was just so incredible to watch that. I love her story. Love it. If you guys don't know it, we'll have to stick it in Rock Your Purpose just to get some inspiration about it.
All right, you guys, we're heading into 9:54. So if someone has something else they'd like to share, we'd love to hear from you real quick.
Thank you for leading the call, Elizabeth. You did such a great job, and you hit on pretty much all the things too that stood out to me. And going back a ways, but the quote from Thomas Edison about how if we actually did all the things that we could, we would astound ourselves. So it just made me think, why do we keep putting ourselves down? And Rochelle talked about this a little bit too with your kids and how they say, I can't do this. Why do we keep saying those things to ourselves? We need to always be talking positive, working on that neuroplasticity, and training our brains to think positively all the time, or having it up all over our house, everywhere we are, being positive and reminding ourselves in ways that we need to see it. And when we might not feel that way, doing some extra things that can help us with that. So those diamond docs that somebody said or put in the chat there can be really helpful. Team calls that you found really inspiring, even if you've listened to them before, go back and listen again. You might pick up something new or a couple things that you could share with somebody. So
Absolutely. And just having those things in front of your face. I know this is going back to pre-Plexus days, but when Matt was deployed and I had kids by myself and I'm homeschooling and I had to do everything by myself because he was gone and I didn't have family around me, I literally posted Bible verses all over my house, kitchen cabinets, in the laundry room, in the bathroom, the places that I spent the most time. And I had to constantly fill my mind full of that. And so I still do that to this day. And I don't care how many times I've read these verses. I read the Bible. We read these verses over and over and over again over our lifetime, right? And so we still read them again. So same thing like you just said, Heather, we watch the video again or whatever, we might get a different golden nugget out of it, because even when we're reading the Bible and we've read these different verses so many times, maybe back when we read it 5 years ago or 5 days ago or whatever, different things are going to be illuminated at different times, good depending on what's going on in our life, right? And so just making sure that that's why it's important to have your why written down and put it where you can see it. Have it in your planner, yes, but put it in your kitchen. Have your dream board visible to you. Put it on the wallpaper of your phone. Put it, like, go old school and make a scrapbook type of thing if you want, and put it on your wall. I don't care. Do whatever it is going to be that where you're going to see it, but you need to have that visual of your vision for your future so that you can tap into that, right? And then just, yes, writing down your goals. It's just so important to have those things written down and in front of your face, because if you just have all these thoughts in your head of, oh, I need to do this or I need to do that, and then the end of the day comes and you're like, well, shoot, I didn't even get those things done. And then you done forgot what you were going to do and whatever else, right? So like, write it down, cross it off, and you do have that sense of accomplishment then. So yeah.
It makes me think of how Jesus was with Mary and Martha, and he didn't want us to be busy like Martha and how we miss the point. And when you talk about scripture, it reminded me, like I was just looking it up, 2 Corinthians 10:5, how it talks about we take captive our thoughts and not be busy minded and get caught up in that, because then we can become like Martha and miss what it is that Christ wants us to focus on and really accomplish.
Absolutely. And it takes discipline, just like with anything else. It takes discipline for us to sit still at the feet of Jesus. It takes discipline to shut all those other things out of your mind so that you can only focus on him. And it's hard sometimes. Like there have definitely been times where I'm like, Lord, I am so sorry. I'm all over the place. But thankfully he understands me and he knows my brain and he knows what's in it without me even saying. But I'm just like, I'm going to go for a walk and I'm going to clear my head and then I'm going to come back and talk to you. Or sometimes I'll just talk to him on my walk or whatever. But like when you have so many kids and you have all these different things, it is hard to sometimes, have that quiet time. And so it just takes discipline to say, this is important to me. I want to spend time with the Lord or the husband or the team or the kids or fill in the blank, right? So just having that discipline to do that.
Yes. Thank you guys all for jumping on and sharing. And today is Lauren's anniversary and Jackie's birthday. So that's why they're missing. They're enjoying their special days, which is what we want them to do, right? So I did want you guys to be aware in case you didn't know. So thank you so much for getting on. And we will see you again on calls next week early, and then next week book club for the next 3 chapters. So 4, 5, and 6.